Welcome to my new video series called How to Make £1 Million Playing Poker in 2020. So the reason I'm making this video series is because I get a lot of questions from a lot of people and they're all at different stages of their poker career. And I want to make a sort of generic video to answer all those questions and cover what you should be doing or my ideas of what you should be doing at each different stage in your poker journey. So a few stipulations are going to be, I'm not just going to say bink a tournament, and I'm not going to say buy Bitcoin or anything like this. It's going to be what you should be doing based on your bankroll size, based on your experience, based on what level you think you're at, when you should get coaching, when you should get CFPs, what is coaching, what is CFPs, what you should be looking for to get good deals in these situations, what are bad deals, and when you should be taking them, etc. So hopefully this covers all of that. And if you've got any questions, just fire them through and I'll either make a video on them if there's enough people asking the same question, or I'll comment back. So step number one, you've got $0 to $500 bankroll. It's not 2004 anymore. You can't just play free rolls, hope to spin it up. That unfortunately just doesn't happen anymore. Rake is really, really high in the micro stakes. And the biggest piece of advice I'm going to give you if you've got $0 to $500 is get a job. You need a job. You need to be able to support yourself. You're not going to be able to survive the swings in poker from the start, especially with little or low experience. It's really important that you have that income and that stability before you can truly dip into poker. Yes, it's tough. Yes, maybe minimum wage isn't going to cut it. You're not going to be able to get your bankroll, but you're going to have to find a way. You're going to have to sacrifice something, whether that's going out, whether that's moving back to home if you can do that. But if you want to do it, you're going to have to find a way to do that. Now, it's important to realize that in today's poker environment, the micros are a little bit of a trap. The rake is really high. Yes, the games are soft, but you don't want to be grinding them for a living. Don't get me wrong, play any stakes you want for fun. If this is a hobby for you, you can take your $500 if that's what you got and play one tournament. But if you want to start doing this for a living and grind up, the lowest you should really be starting to take it semi-seriously is going to be 10 and now. And that does not mean that you're going to be making a living playing 10 and now. That just means that this is a stake where you can start to think about ranges, think about what people are doing. Obviously, it's going to change. All these assumptions that you're making at 10 and now are going to change as you move up. But this is where you want. This is probably the lowest stake where you can really start to think about those kind of things. One of the biggest things you're going to need, and you just have to invest in this, is going to be a tracking software. Whether that's Poker Tracker, Hold'em Manager is my favorite, but there are multitudes of really advanced ones and expensive ones and cheap ones. Realistically, for where you're at right now, you just need a cheap one that works on your computer. I don't think all of them work on Macs. I prefer Hold'em Manager, in particular Hold'em Manager 2. I can't remember the exact price. It's maybe $100, maybe $50 if you get the cheap one. But you absolutely need this if you're going to move forward. You need to be able to track your results. You need to be able to look back at your hands and see where you're going wrong so you can share them with people. There's just many, many reasons these are going to be cool. This isn't about using a HUD in the game. This is about your own personal results. Right, so you're at the beginning. Don't go too fast. You've got your tracking software now. I personally, at this stage, you still have a job. Poker for you right now is not about making money. It's about improving, and you want to ideally improve as fast as you can in the right way. So here's what I recommend you to do. I would play 2 tables of 10 NL Zoom on PokerStars. It's going to be running all the time. Yes, the rake's high, but the game is definitely beatable. Download some free ranges, whether you use the Poker Snow preflop app or you've used somewhere like the Bluff the Spot MMA ranges. Print them off, memorize them, focus on them, try and use them when you're playing so that you've got a good, solid, fundamental preflop strategy, and then try and work your way through post-flop, whether that's following YouTube videos for content, whether that's following my Twitch stream, whether that's asking other people questions, but really, really importantly, really use your brain and try and think about it yourself, because that's going to be key for you to get even further. Play a reasonable amount of volume. You know, don't go mad. Don't just sit there and play 100,000 hands and burn all your money. Don't play 500 hands and think that's you're a genius now because you've won $50. Try and play a few thousand hands, whether that's every evening or just like 5,000 hands at the weekend. Realistically, for someone to be able to look at your sample and see what's going on, you need at least 20,000 hands. The 20,000 hands would give someone like me, if I looked at your stats, a good idea about what you're doing fundamentally that might be right or wrong. There's obviously going to be, as you get further, the more nuanced stuff is going to need a bigger sample. But 20,000 hands is a good idea to see whether you're doing something really badly wrong. But this is where you really need to get self-critical, and you need to be able to look through your hands at the end of the session, and in particular, your losing hands, not your winning hands, and say, did I punt this? Could I got away from this? Can I make more money in these spots? Can I lose less money in those spots? And this skill here is something that you need to get really good at, and needs to come from you before you even go to anybody else. So now you put in a little bit of a sample. Now your options are going to be wider based on what your sample looks like. So if you're losing, you need to improve. So you need to go onto YouTube, you need to go onto, well, I would say start with YouTube. There's a load of good free content, more than enough to beat 10-0 on YouTube. I wouldn't pay for any content at this point. If you're breaking even, then again, probably just need to find that little bit of information. Just keep thinking about what you're doing. This is where, if you're breaking even, I'd try and be really self-critical. I wouldn't look too much to YouTube and stuff. I think that you probably be able to find things out yourself. And if you're winning, great. Okay, so you're winning, it's still a small sample. Based on how much you're winning means whether you should try and move up or not. Again, I'm still assuming that you have a job on the side, so this money is separate. But if you're winning by, say, more than 7 big blinds, even if that's only like 30, 50,000 hands, that's enough for me to suggest that you should probably dip your toe into 25. So we're in the micros. We could talk about something called bankroll management, but realistically, we only really care about bankroll management when we're starting to make this our full-time income. Right now, we're just trying to move up as fast as we can. We're trying to be smart about it, and we're trying to learn as cheaply and as effectively as possible. And again, this is all coming from you. If you put more volume in, if you put more study time in, and again, it's not going to solvers. This is literally going to be talking to people. This is literally going to be looking at YouTube, Twitch, etc. Everything for free in terms of studying for you at this point. The only thing you've really expensed is your tracker, and that's going to be a useful tool for you to improve. You're going to repeat these steps at 25. You're going to use your brain, use your common sense. You're going to have a really good understanding of what people are doing now, because it's not going to change that much from 10 out to 25. And now this is when you want to start putting in some volume and really starting to build a sample. A good rule of thumb for if you're beating a limit in terms of hourly is going to be about half a buy-in if you're 4-tabling it at Zoom. So if you're playing 25 an hour and you're 4-tabling, you should realistically be trying to make at least $12.50 an hour. That should be your benchmark, what you're trying to do. Obviously, making money if it's less than that, that's fine. You can still do that, but then you should still be trying to improve. If you're making $12.50 an hour at 25 an hour, could you quit your minimum wage job? I would say definitely not. You want to be making significantly more money at poker because it's so swingy and so inconsistent before you'd even consider leaving a job. So realistically, you want to be beating 50 an hour before we even get into that realm. Okay, so now you've been playing 25 an hour for say 100, 200,000 hands. You're beating it for whatever win rate, but you're making say $10 an hour. Every time you play 50, it's just you get knocked back down and it's just not working for you. What should you do now? Well, there's a few good things going for you now. It's one, you've got a big sample with a decent win rate and you're making good money and you've proven that you're willing to put the work in. This is probably going to make you an ideal candidate for a CFP. What is a CFP? A CFP stands for coaching for profit. And this is when a coach will take on a student and won't charge them an hourly rate, but he'll charge them a percentage of what they win. Now, I've done these deals in the past where I've been the student and I've been the coach. So I have a little bit of experience, both sides. When I'm looking for a student, I want someone that's willing to put in the work, is already showing that he can win or break even at whatever stake. And usually, if someone's going from 25 to 50, for me, it's just a few quick fixes and I can get them being 50. And with these deals as well, I could potentially provide staking, which works out great for the player because, for example, if they had the bankroll enough to play 25 now, but not play 50 now, but they could beat 50 now, I provide the bankroll, we're both winning because now he's playing at twice the stakes. I'm getting 50% and he's getting to play 50, which is doubling his win rate regardless. But I can't stress enough how important it is to have that sample first. And that's something that a backer really, really wants to see. He doesn't want to take a random and say, good luck, like see what happens. He wants someone that has the dedication and the work ethic to actually do the work, and showing that is really, really important. If you're the student in this situation and you are beating 25, but you're struggling to beat 50, and you join a CFP where they offer staking, firstly, that's great that they offer staking, not all of them do. You should be almost demanding to be put straight at 50, because if the coach is worth anything, then he should be confident enough in his ability to put you at 50. Yes, you may lose at first, but that's the point of getting coaching, right? And that should, if he's any good, turn that around. So That's what I would be demanding if I was a student in your spot. CFPs often have different terms when the deal ends. Some of them are time duration, some of them are hand duration, some of them are amount one duration. You need to really weigh that up, and that's going to be a personal decision to you. It really depends on your circumstances. If it's easy for you to do volume, maybe you prefer volume. If it's sometimes the coach will just want a money rate, so maybe he gets you to 50, and then once you've won $25,000, of which I'll get 12.5K off, if it's 50-50, then he's like, good luck, do what you want. And these are really cool because if you are a good student and you have a good relationship with that coach, then, and he's, for example, a coach that like beats 500, then maybe he's like, all right, we've done our 50 CFP now, let's try and get you to 100, and let's do another one, and let's keep going. And you've got that relationship with him, then, and maybe you can get a better deal because he knows that you're already good, and maybe now you're only giving him 40% and then 30%, but you don't have to bankroll yourself, and all of a sudden you're playing 200. So these deals can be, they're always going to be the worst when you first start them, but think of them not just as what the deal says, but also a networking opportunity as well. And those in poker, if you really want to get to the high stakes, are really, really important. So the earliest point in your career where I would consider a CFP is probably going to be 50, but realistically, I think you should be holding out, not massively, but just a little bit, just to try and get as high as you can quickly. Do 80% of the work yourself, because that's the hardest bit. And then once you've reached that 80% of your own capacity, then look for help, because there is going to be things that you haven't seen about your game that someone with a fresh pair of eyes that has that more experience is going to be able to tell you. And that sort of snippet of advice could be worth so much more money to you in the future, but you do want to try and get as high as you can, as quickly as possible on your own first. Now, from a backer's point of view, as much as I want to see work ethic, if I'm staking you, it's going to take a lot more trust from me, especially if you're a complete unknown. So this is another reason it's really important to be pretty face up in the poker community, be a pretty straight up guy. Don't owe anyone money. Make sure that people that deal with you, you've always had that good relationship and people are positive about you, because these deals, as much as they don't seem that important at the lower stakes, if you're getting some high stakes game, trust me, you're going to need staking. So when should you leave your job? Now, I would say it depends massively on what kind of job you have. If you're making minimum wage, I would imagine once you're sort of at 50, beating it, and have about $5,000 at least, that's when I might leave. Yes, you might run bad for say a month, but hopefully you can find another job, or it gives you the fire to try even harder at poker, and maybe that works out for you. But that's probably the lowest I would want before I left my job. And obviously, if you've got a better job, it's even harder. If you've got dependents, it's even harder. So everyone's journey is different. But I would now say at this point, when you're pushing 50 and 100, you really do need to start building your own poker circles, like network with people that are at similar stakes, chat to them, talk to them, Skype with them, study group with them. This is going to be really important, not just because it's going to help you improve, but also when these guys improve as well, you're going to bring each other up together. You're going to be the guys that like, oh, remember we're both grinding 50 and now look at us, we're both grinding 500. And like collaboration is super, super important because I've always seen it as especially even when I take on students, it's like, I want my student to be as good as me. So then when he gets better than me, he can help me get better. And that's the kind of relationship you want with people. So you're being 50 now, you're pushing up to 100. It's probably time to invest in yourself now. It's probably worth the money at this point. I think a good coach for these kind of stakes is going to be about $250 an hour. Maybe you can get a block for like say 3 hours for $600, something like that. But if you find a good coach, like 3 hours is probably enough, and then maybe some top ups. But you're topping up, your first 3 hour block, and then maybe you do an hour every month. So you're obviously making money in the month. Presume you're making money each month, so that you're going to be able to afford that hourly top up if you need it. And then obviously build a relationship with the coach, and then maybe he gets higher and then he takes you, etc. But yeah, it's probably time to start investing in that, really plug in some leaks, really start focusing on some details that maybe you wasn't focusing on before, letting them point you in the right direction. But again, if you find a good coach, he's not going to give you all the answers because he can't. There's just infinite questions and infinite answers. He's going to point you in the right direction so you can think about it for yourself. And that's still a skill that you should have been building on since day one. Okay, so now you've got $10,000, maybe $8,000 to $15,000, and you're slightly being 100. It's now time to start looking at live poker. Now, live poker is always going to be softer than online poker for several reasons, and I won't go into all those now. but you can play significantly high stakes, but you're going to get less hands per hour. One of the biggest things to increase your hourly online is obviously just to increase the tables. If you haven't thought about that already, do that. But live poker, the smallest stakes I imagine you're going to consider playing is £1, £2, or $1, $2, and that's going to be extremely soft. Yes, the reg's a factor, but not a factor enough in the level of skill of those games. It's going to play more like a 25 an hour game, which you should be very comfortable in. Yes, there's going to be nuances to playing live that you need to adjust to and make sure that you're a bit careful. So don't be stupid and don't go and dust like 10 buy-ins, but be careful. Maybe go with a few friends, go network, meet people, talk about hands. You know, you've really got to fall in love with poker. You've got to be talking about it non-stop, and you've got to really be self-critical. And at this point, you should be ready to go and crush in live poker. Now it's going to be a good time to try and find a balance in terms of lifestyle, whether you want to play online or more live. And this is going to be just purely down to hourly and time of day that you prefer to play. So I imagine if you live somewhere like Vegas or the UK, or let's say the UK, for example, and say you live in London, you can go play 1, 2, 2, 5, probably most evenings, obviously not during lockdown. And then you can play online basically whenever you want. So I would probably be playing as much, I'd look at my hourlies in both. Live is probably going to be slightly higher than online given the stake level you can play. And then I would use online when I couldn't play live or when I didn't want to go play live. But really important thing, and this is what I see a lot of people do, and this is a mistake you don't want to do, is don't neglect online, because now you're like, oh my God, live poker is easy. Or maybe you think that, I can make so much more money playing live, but you will get soft. Because yes, online poker is harder, but you're never going to get much better than that 2-5 live game if you don't play online. So you've got to have that balance. Don't drop online poker completely. Yes, use live poker, spin up your bankroll, get to 25, get to £50,000, but use that to shot take 200 Zoom. Yes, you're going to hate that because you're going to struggle at it and it's going to be really hard and you're going to feel bad because you don't beat that, but you crush live, and screw online poker because we're going to just beat live for the rest of my life. It's not going to work like that. Live poker is going to get harder. You're going to get worse. You need to beat 200 Zoom and you need to keep pushing. But now hopefully you've got a bankroll, and I'm talking like 25K plus. So shot taking 200 Zoom shouldn't be too expensive, and that's almost like coaching in itself if you're good at being self-critical and using your trackers, etc. But now it's time to start investing properly into more serious coaches, and maybe now you can start looking at solvers. It's going to be harder and harder the higher you get to find a coach that is hourly, because relative to the information they give you, it's not worth it. Like, for example, if I could make you a 500 Zoom crusher, which maybe I can, maybe I can't, that to you is worth maybe $100,000 a year. If I give you that information in 10 hours and charge you $2,000 and then you get 100K worth of EV for it, yeah, obviously you're putting in the work and stuff, but it doesn't seem like a fair trade for me. And you're not exactly going to pay me 30K for that information when you don't know whether that information is going to be worth it to you or not. So the only real way around this is going to be a CFP again. But now you've got a bankroll, so you're not that fussed about requiring staking with these CFPs. So now you don't mind looking at ones like Bluff the Spot. Maybe there's some private ones, like for example, if you knew me, which before anyone asked me, you don't know me. So please don't ask me, because for me, I only take people on that I've known for a long time, because it's obviously a lot of money now that we're talking that I have to trust them with. But Bluff the Spot, for example, don't offer staking, so they can take a smaller percentage of your winnings. There's obviously some incentive risk there, but obviously go in with both eyes open, understand what that is, talk to them. You should have a sample now. You should have played live poker. You can obviously explain to them that, look, I've been playing live poker, making more money, and now I need to beat 200 Zoom or 500. What happens now? And I'm sure that you'll figure something out. But you should always be repeating the steps of being self-critical, figuring out when you're winning, when you're breaking even, doing all the studying, and keep improving. I cannot stress that enough. You need to keep improving. It never stops. Okay, so now you've got like 50K, you beat 2-5 live, you're slightly struggling at 200 Zoom, but you reckon you can get there a bit better. Now maybe what you could do is start staking some people yourself. Now you have to be careful here, but if you did network very well and you did have some reliable 50 Zoom winners, maybe those are going to be the guys that are going to need the money to be staked at £1, £2 live, and you trust them enough, and the game's softer than 50 now. Maybe those are the guys you want to flick in the games. That could work. But trust me, many people are already doing this, and if you're not careful, you're just going to kill the fields. So be careful with this. Don't just be like blindly stake anyone, because you will get burnt. As much as people do seem trustworthy, they're not always 100%. Everyone's got their own individual circumstances. Never obviously give the money you can't afford to lose, but it could be a good option if you know the right people. But again, just be super, super careful. But now it's time for you to go and find maybe some 5-10 games. Maybe now you need to be staked for say 5-10 in LA, for example, or maybe Las Vegas or wherever it is. Maybe you want to shot take the World Series. That sounds good, right? You go and play some 5-10, maybe even some 10-20, see how that goes. Maybe you can get staking for that. And then literally try and spin your bankroll as hard as you can. That's not going to be smooth by any means. You're going to have downswings, you're going to have upswings, you're going to have break-even patches. Never forget where you came from. Never be scared to move back down and start again. And that is one of the biggest skills you're going to need for longevity. That's going to be one of the biggest skills you need for your mental game. Like, I know people that are now millionaires that have done this journey, gone broke, had to spin it back up again. But every time you go broke, you have to see it as a lesson. Like, don't be afraid of going broke. Don't be afraid of having to go back. If this is really what you want to do, you have to have that mindset that it could all go wrong at any time. That's the only way you're ever going to make it to the end. And the rest of the story is this is going to be repeat. Stake more, move up in stakes, learn more, get higher, invest more, do everything again, do it bigger, do it better, move up to higher stakes, grind harder, put more hours in, play more tables, get your horses to play more tables, get better horses, move your horses up, you move up, you spin, you invest, etc. And that's it until you get to the point where you don't want to play anymore, or your investments are basically paying for your life anyway, and then you want to branch into other things. I'll give you an example where I'm at with my journey now. I made over $1 million playing cash last year playing poker, and now obviously I didn't keep all of that because I was staked, but I kept at least 50% of that. Plus I'd made money in poker before that. And now for me, my investments are making me, well, obviously it's Corona year, so my investments aren't massive, but enough for me to live my life now in Thailand, and enough that if I want to go play high stakes when the games are open, I can go get staked for that, and I'll make money or be in makeup, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. And that's, for me, all I wanted from poker, and I hope that this gives you a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of guidance to try and do that yourself. If there's anything more specific you want to ask me, like your CFP deals, or your staking deals, or any issues you've got with those kind of things, please post them. And if there's enough similar examples, I will post a video about it so people don't get ripped off, or they find ones with good deals, etc. But good luck to everyone trying to make it. If this helps you get anywhere, then fantastic. I'll make some more videos like this. I'd love to hear your stories as well. Please like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.